Good evening, gorgeous. I hope you had a pleasant week. Happy Friday. It is time for your well-deserved True Crime Cocktail Hour. Today's case is going to be a little bit different. Today we'll be talking about one of the most famous, notorious female drug lords in history. I have to say I'm somewhat fascinated by this woman because they just rise to power in a man's world that is dominated by violence, crime, and deception. Hundreds and thousands of men are under their control and do as they say. And I can't even get my own damn husband to put his clothes away that I neatly washed and folded for him in my sacrificial, infinitely loving, kind nature. The star of today's story is Jemeker Thompson, the Queen Pin, or, as she was also called, the Crack Queen of Los Angeles, which, by the way, I think is a horrible name for a female drug lord, don't you think? I think it sounds like she's the main user of crack in Los Angeles. Whatever, she's a remarkable woman. So here we go. Jemeker Thompson was born in the early 1960s into a very poor family. When Jemeker was only 4 years old, her parents divorced, and ever since her mother tried to raise her and her 4 brothers on her own, which is hard enough as it is. But the thing that Jemeker's mother struggled with the most was money.
My mother was a very strong lady. As a single parent, in South Central, she did the best she could to provide a roof over our head.
When Jemeker was only 8 years old, she came home from school to find an eviction notice on the door, and Jemeker's family was forced to leave the house Jemeker had grown up in.
It's this house right here. This is the old house that we used to live in when we got evicted when I was a little girl.
Now, this day was absolutely tragic and life-changing for Jemeker, and she swore to herself on this very day that something like that won't ever happen to her or her family ever again. The family then moved to Mississippi, where Jemeker's grandparents lived, but in her teenage years, she returned to South Central LA. In high school, she met her future husband, Anthony Death Mosley. Now, Anthony Death Mosley was kind of a legend in the neighborhood already, dealing with pot and cannabis. Now, because of his wheeling and dealing, he made a lot of money, and Jemeker, as his girlfriend, profited greatly from it. Like, for example, when Jemeker was 17 years old, he bought her a house. Both of them drove around in like the most luxurious cars you've ever seen. And Jemeker enjoyed the money so much that she started to deal with cannabis as well.
Money was my power. Money was my control. And that's what controlled me, the money. And I wanted the money.
This was kind of like her first step into the business. But Jemeker started small, and she would only sell pot to her classmates, until her future career as a drug dealer took a huge leap forward when she met a man who was a professional cocaine supplier. Jesus, ignore him. Jemeker was so intrigued that she went home to her boyfriend and told him that she wanted to switch from selling pot to selling cocaine because cocaine promised a lot more money. However, selling cocaine was everything but a small deal to Death, and he felt uncomfortable with it. Death was totally fine with just selling pot and cannabis, and he was also very much into gambling and hustling, and he was good at it, so it made him a lot more money anyway. So he was fine, and so he told Jemeker, you know what, you go ahead, but cocaine is not for me. I don't want to have anything to do with this. This is a little bit too much for me, which was totally fine with Jemeker, but it didn't keep her from carrying out her plan by herself. And she started to sell cocaine, and babe, she was good at it. So thanks to dealing with cannabis and cocaine, Death and Jemeker lived the most luxurious life. They lived in a big house, they drove nice cars, they had a pool outside, everything you could possibly wish for. And Jemeker literally got addicted to the money. And not only that, she also got addicted to the thrill of the business. So eventually, Death and Jemeker actually rose to some kind of fame, and they became the #1 drug dealers on the street of LA. Jemeker and Death got married in 1980 in Las Vegas, and it was around that time that somebody told Jemeker about this new kind of cocaine, crack. Crack has the same effect as cocaine, only it is 50 times stronger. And Jemeker just knew, she had this feeling that crack was gonna be the best next thing. It was easy to produce, it was easy to consume, and it was highly profitable for the people selling it. So she wasted no time. And in a matter of 24 hours, she had this new drug in stock, and she started to sell it. And it made her the biggest drug lord in Los Angeles.
It was something that, it was my business. It became my business.
However, Jemeker did not do drugs herself. In fact, she avoided physical contact with the product, which is why she never attracted any kind of attention from the police. But she was known to the people on the street, and the people on the street also knew that Jemeker did not take a joke when it comes to her business and her money. She had a reputation, and it was in fact frightening. She was said to be ruthless, dangerous, and not one to mess with. Someone who experienced that firsthand was her husband, Anthony Mosley, because when Jemeker found out that he was cheating on her, she didn't think twice, baby. She shot at him multiple times, but missed. I don't know how he did it, but Anthony Mosley actually managed to convince Jemeker to give him a second chance. He bought her another house and a car as an apology, and they actually did reconcile. The following year, 1982, was a big one and a very good one for Jemeker. She had made millions as a drug lord at that time, while only being 20 years old. And then in 1982, she also gave birth to her first and only child, Anthony Jr. While being pregnant, she stepped back from selling crack herself, but she was still in control. She made the connections, she collected the money, and she kept just everybody in check from afar. But her rise as a drug lord also brought along enemies, naturally. For example, thanks to undercover informants, the DEA was at least now aware of the name Jemeker Thompson. And like they say, the competition never sleeps, especially in 1984, at the peak of the so-called crack pandemic in the United States. Financially and career-wise, the year 1984 was another good one for Jemeker. Personally, it was her worst year ever. It was a pure nightmare.
We're together, we're family, life is great, and then he gets killed.
In November of 1984, her husband, Anthony Mosley, was shot and killed in the back of a car wash company where illegal betting and gambling took place. The murder is unsolved to this day.
It's very sad, very hurtful, very lonely to lose someone that was your high school sweetheart, your husband, your baby daddy.
Death's murder was obviously devastating for Jemeker, but it also unleashed a very bloody and violent battle between the gangs. Up to this point, of course, they were fighting each other, but it was never this bloody, it was never this violent. But now that Dev was killed, it was kind of like, okay, all bets are off. Here we go.
Somebody got killed in the game. It was chalked up to the game because that's the choice you made.
So it got very bloody, very violent, and the police was actually quite busy fighting these drug gangs. Not only that, they had another problem on their hands along with the drug gangs. I mean, crack, crime, 1984 and Los Angeles. My little true crime fan, huh? Does that ring a bell? You're right. Along with the drug gangs, police was also busy with finding a specific serial killer that was wandering the streets of Los Angeles in 1984. The Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez, was also on the loose. And now that Dev Mosley was dead, the DEA celebrated. They knew about Jemeker Thompson, his wife, but they initially thought that she was just some kind of accessory. And they were like, okay, she's a woman in a man's world. Like, what she's gonna do? Take over? Expand internationally? Level up? Do it better? Well, you're goddamn right. That's exactly what she did. Los Angeles just wasn't enough anymore. Jemeker Thompson wanted to be in the big boss league, and she knew where the big bosses were. So she wasted no time, and she hopped on the next train, and she started to travel the United States and the world, trying to make new connections. For example, she attended the big boxing championships because this is where the big bosses were, and she tried to make connections with them, and she was good at it. I mean, her fiery charm and her attractiveness made it quite simple. And in addition, growing up with 4 brothers, growing up in South Central LA, being in the business since being 16 years old, she knew how to talk to men and to handle men.
I was, raised a tomboy because I was the only girl in my family. So I had boys around me all the time. So it was easy for me to connect with men.
So she traveled to Las Vegas, Miami, Beverly Hills, each time coming back with a new connection, a new deal, and more money. In Las Vegas, she met a man who had connections to a Colombian wholesaler. And Jemeker did it again, and she soon found herself shaking hands with this wholesaler. So it's like Colombia, Mexico, that would be the route on which crack would come to the United States in the 1990s, and I think even today. But back then, the rule was, the further you were able to ship, the more expensive it got for the seller. So if you managed to ship crack all the way from Colombia over Mexico to the United States to Los Angeles, babe, you were golden. But now, Jemeker had another problem. She had made too much money. So she needed a way to make her new fortune look legitimate and legal. Money laundering, exactly. So one of Jemeker's friends, she owned a beauty salon in Los Angeles, and one day when Jemeker was there, she had like a light bulb moment. So she opened up a company called Hair Distributes Cooperated, a company that sold high-quality wigs and synthetic hair. And things were actually going really great. Jemeker was really good at being this businesswoman. She wore the wigs herself to advertise it, make it seem real. And this company actually achieved some major success. So her money was safe. But the job was so boring to Jemeker. She really missed the thrill of the drug dealing business. So she does what she does best. She kept the hair company, but she got back to her first job, her first love of being a drug lord. She also made new connections, and she made connections to a man, I forgot his real name, but they usually go by nicknames, right? And this man's nickname was Cheese. So Cheese would not only remain to be like a business partner to Jemeker, but he should also become a life partner to her. Okay, can we just stop there for a second? I know that 98% of my viewers are female. Love that. But honey bun, can we agree that we do not get involved with a man that gave himself or was given the name Cheese? Is that okay with you? Okay, great. Thank you. So up to this point, the police and DEA were not able to catch Jemeker Thompson. She was always one step ahead of them. I mean, she held her business partners and dealers on a short leash. There were rumors that she was behind a lot of murder-for-hire deals to get rid of the blabbermouths. That was never confirmed. We don't know this, but what we do know is that no one had the guts to throw her under the bus. No one, except Cheese, of course. He full-blown ruins everything. So one day, Cheese is out and about, doing his thing, selling crack on the street for Jemeker, when he accidentally sells it to an undercover DEA agent. Unfortunately, that is not all what they have on him at this point. Because you see, a couple of weeks earlier, one of Jemeker's drug traffickers, his nickname is Dino, he's on the way to LA by car. Okay, so he drives on the interstate. The car is full of crack. So is Dino. And there's this car in front of him that's been bothering him the entire time because it's going so slow. So Dino over here, he overtakes this car. And while he's doing that, he pulls out a gun, points it at the other driver, and starts to threaten him. Now this other driver, in full-blown panic mode, he steps on his brakes to get some distance to this nutcase, and then he calls the police. So the interstate police, they come and get Dino, they find the car, they find the crack. So now they're offering him a plea deal to share his connections in exchange for a lesser prison sentence. However, Jemeker is not the one he decides to sell out. MC Cheddar has to take the fall. So MC Cheddar, he's offered the same plea deal as Dino, and he just throws her right under the bus. He spills the tea on Jemeker Thompson. Jemeker Thompson is now charged with money laundering and crack and cocaine trafficking. But when the police got to her house to arrest her, she was nowhere to be found. She was on the run. She gave herself a new name. She wore her wigs all the time. She never stayed at a place for too long. She was always kind of wandering around. But she always came back to her son, Anthony, even if it was just for 5 minutes. So then in 1992, the DEA and police, they searched the hair and wig company, trying to find a hint on where she might be. And they did find this hint, and it was actually hanging on the wall in her office room. It was the invitation for her son's preschool graduation ceremony. Jemeker knew that it was very dangerous to go there. She knew they were onto her. But she was a mother first and a drug dealer second. So she decided to go to this graduation ceremony as well as the DEA. So Jemeker Thompson is arrested at her son's school. Everybody witnessed it. It was a whole deal. So, and then she's offered the same plea deal as Dino and Cheese. But Jemeker declines. Yeah. She says, you know what? I did everything out of free will, and I'm going to take responsibility for my actions. And she never blew the whistle on anybody of her contacts. Jemeker Thompson is sentenced to 15 years in prison. She was released in 2005, and today she leads, I think she works as a priest. She leads this Protestant church congregation, and yeah, she just lives a normal and quiet life. Jemeker's son, Anthony, not gonna lie, he had a tough childhood. Father killed and mother in prison. It was hard, but I think he's doing good, and he actually became a professional skateboarder. So what do you think about her? Let me know in the comments down below. You can also let me know what cases you would like me to talk about. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button because it would really mean the world to me. Thank you so much. Other than that, next week we're going to Las Vegas, baby. We're going to be talking about a very, very controversial case. Oh my god. Okay. I'm really looking forward to that. So if you want, I will see you again next Friday. Until then, you go and have a wonderful, relaxing weekend and an even better week. And if you want, I will see you next Friday.